What markets should you avoid when you're starting your company? Well, here are four that I think are difficult. It doesn't mean you can't succeed if you're in these markets, but it's just more difficult. So let's go. The first is government markets. Now, why government markets? Because guess what? They take huge amounts of time. And guess what else? There's lots of regulations, there's lots of red tape. So what happens? You can burn through tons of money and not win. Plus, does a government really want to deal with you? A tiny little startup? Probably not. It's going to be difficult. Expect it. Second market, which is very similar, is a highly regulated market. Regulation, again, means more red tape. Regulation means it's tougher to differentiate yourself. And those are the marks of good startups, are companies that can differentiate themselves from their competitors. So if you're in a highly regulated market, it's going to be tough. Third is a narrow market. Now, what do I mean by a narrow market? A narrow market is a market that maybe has one or two main competitors. So for example, let's look at the phone market, for example, in today's world. You have Apple, Samsung, and some smaller guys. So you have to sell to Apple or Samsung if you're going to win in those markets. How do you do that? It's tough. I've sold to Apple. I've sold to Samsung, and I can tell you from experience, it's not easy to do this. It doesn't mean you can't as a startup. We did as a startup to both companies, but it takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes energy. And guess what? They're going to be tough on you. So it's not a given you're going to win there. I don't like all or none markets, and that's an all or none market. Finally, what's the fourth one? Commodity markets. In other words, a market that isn't going to value your product. If you're going after a market where they're not going to value your product and they're going to look at you and say, it's just a commodity. In other words, we don't care what you're selling. All we care about is the basic function of the product. It's going to be very difficult to differentiate yourself. It's going to be very difficult to get more money for your product. Now, this doesn't mean you can't do it. I've seen businesses and I've run businesses that have been very successful in commodity markets, and the way you do it is you come up with ways to differentiate yourself and create a new market. That's the way to do it. So those are my four markets. Don't go after them. Find other green pastures, hopefully, that'll be better served. I'm Brett at brettjfox.com. Have a great, great day.